Welcome to Efiwe, excellence without stress.
Hi guys, we're back again on this our journey. We're back again on this excellence without stress journey, and today we're taking the topic friction. Taking the topic friction. What is friction? When a solid is in contact with another, the roughness of their surfaces prevents them from sliding freely over one another. Such action is brought about the effect of friction. Friction is defined as a force. So friction is a type of force which acts at the surface of separation between two objects in contact and tends to oppose the motion of one over the other. When two bodies are in contact, the force that is between them is called the frictional force. When you are sitting down, between yourself and the chair, there is something called the frictional force. So it is defined as a force which acts as the surface of separation between two objects in contact and tends to oppose the motion of one over the other. So you can see it now. This is a one body, this and that one. Between them is what is called the frictional force. It's trying to oppose the motion of one over the other. This one wants to go towards the side, and there's another pushing force that is taking it to the other side. So the frictional, this one wants to move, this body wants to move towards the side, but the frictional force is opposing it towards this other side. It's just like balancing the Newton's law of motion, which says action are equal and opposite. That is that about the equation of motion. But the equation of that's that about frictional force. So frictional force acts tangential to the surface of separation between two bodies in contact. Friction is a force of opposition. It does not appear unless there is relative motion. When you are about to move, that's when you experience the motion. That's when you experience the frictional force. Or a force tending to produce motion. And it always appears to oppose the motion of force tending to produce it. So frictional force has to be overcome before an object can move over another. Frictional force also continues to act as long as the body moves over the other. But the thing is, when the body is still at rest, it needs more frictional force to overcome than when the body is actually in motion. Like when the body is at rest, it's just like when you are very tired and you are sleeping, and you are or someone that is continuously working. The force that it will be needed to wake someone that is sleeping and tell the person to go and do a particular work will be lesser than someone that is already working and is still active. So that is just what. So when the force producing the motion is withdrawn, friction slows down the moving body until it eventually comes to rest. We can observe the effect of friction by attaching a spring balance to a block of wood and pulling the spring along the white board. So look at it now, pulling it. You notice that something will be pulling it back. So static or limiting friction is the maximum force that must be overcome before a body can just start to move over another. Static. So this is the first friction. When a car is parked, when you are at rest, the friction that you need to overcome before a body can just start to move over another is called the static or limiting friction. It's not like the one that the body is in continuous motion already, but this one you need to overcome it for the body to just start to do what, to just start to move, and that is the static or limiting friction. Then when the block is pulled along, so that we can observe the effect of friction by, when the block is pulled along so that it moves on the surface of the board with uniform speed, the frictional force opposing motion is known as sliding or kinetic. So now the body was at rest at first. So the first force we need to overcome was the static, because it was at rest. So now that it's now moving, the frictional force that we're now overcoming is the sliding friction. So kinetic or dynamic friction is the first that must be overcome so that the body can move with uniform speed over another body. So that is the kinetic or dynamic friction. These are the laws of friction. Friction opposes relative motion between two surfaces in contact. That is, it acts in a different opposition to that of the motion. If you are moving to the left, friction is moving to the right. The force of friction increases to the extent as the force which tends to start the motion. So the more the force, the more the frictional force. Frictional force depends on the nature of the two surfaces in contact. Yes, that is why you will notice that it is so easy for you to fall when you are on the tiles and when you are on a rough ground. When you are on the rough ground, because the frictional force on tiles is smaller than on the tile. So frictional force depends on the nature of the two surfaces in contact, the nature of the surfaces and the condition of the surfaces, such as rough, smooth, polished, wet, dry, etc. So you see that when you've used your slippers for a long time, what happens? It becomes slippery and you fall. So the frictional force has reduced because the ground is now slippery. That's why I say frictional force depends on the nature of the two surfaces in contact, the nature of the substance and the condition of the surfaces, such as rough, smooth, polished, wet, dry, etc. It is also independent of the area of the surface. It does not matter if it's a big area or a small area, but the type of material that is in contact matters. It actually does matter. It is independent of the area of the surfaces in contact. It varies directly with the normal force pressing the surface together. That is, it is proportional to the normal reaction R. So this is what we are saying. F is directly proportional to the normal reaction. I know when there's a proportionality sign, we're going to have the equals to, and that is mu. Mu is the what? Coefficient of friction. So frictional force is roughly proportional to the normal reaction between two surfaces in contact. So it's proportional to R. So the constant mu is known as the coefficient of friction. Coefficient of friction is defined as the ratio of the frictional force to the normal reaction between the two surfaces in contact, which is R. For static friction, the frictional force F required to determine U is the maximum force required to start the body moving, and U is then called the coefficient of static or limiting friction. That is what we've explained. So friction is equal to mu Fn. So for kinetic friction, the frictional force used is the force required to keep the body in motion. This one is to allow the body to just start to move. This one is to keep the body in motion. The coefficient of static friction is greater than the coefficient of dynamic friction. That was what I was trying to say, that someone that is sleeping is actually always easier to give someone that is working presently a job than someone that is sleeping. So the coefficient of static friction is greater than the coefficient of dynamic friction, for it is a matter of common experience that more force is required to start a body sliding along a surface than is required to keep it in motion once it has not started. That is something we can actually relate to. What are the advantages of friction? Without friction, it will be impossible to walk or stop walking after getting started, and you will continue to fall. We walk only with the help of friction between our feet and ground. If the ground is slippery, that is little friction, and cannot provide enough friction, our feet will not experience the reaction force which moves us forward, so we slip and fall. Friction enables the automobile tires to make a firm grip with the roadway, thus aiding their movement. This is made possible by the pattern of the treading on the vehicle tires, which are designed to give the tires a good grip on the road. It is the frictional force between tires and the road which enables a car to move forward, and to also apply brake. Without frictional force, it will not be possible to apply brake. So friction enables the brakes to stop the car and the locomotive to pull the train. Advantages of friction. Friction is utilized in fan beds, use over wheels, or pulling in machinery. Friction enables a screw or nail to remain in place after being screwed into position. Friction is used in grindstone to sharpen knives and chisels. Disadvantages of friction. Friction leads to much wear and tear, yes, on the moving part. That's why your slippers, after a while, you notice that is now very flat and is not more as rough as it was. Much useless work is done by machine in overcoming friction, which opposes their motion. This friction causes loss of energy, like the energy that's supposed to use to work and be more efficient, they'll be using it to overcome friction. So that's one of the disadvantages of friction. Friction causes the eating of engines. This is because the energy which must be used to overcome friction is converted to it. So these are the methods of reducing friction: the use of lubricants like oil, grease, and graphite, the use of boil or roller bearings, and the streamlining of the body shapes of moving parts. Method of reducing friction: lubricants. Friction can be reduced by using lubricants such as oil. More effective in reducing friction between two surfaces is to maintain a layer of air to another gas between them. The purpose of lubricants is to keep the two metal surfaces from coming into direct contact. So another method is ball rolling or roller bearing. So where a wheel is turning on an axle, friction is better reduced through the use of ball or roller bearings. These are like wheels. This is it beside me here. Within wheels and are precisely shaped and have a specially hardened surface. So this is the ball or roller bearing. Streamlining also, that's new shape. By shaking a body to streamlines of the fluid through which it's moving, the retarding force or frictional force may be greatly reduced. Hence, modern cars, ships, and aeroplanes are made in such shapes and so as to lessen the friction between them and the fluid or the medium through which they move, and that's why they are faster. And this is the end of the friction class. Thank you. See you in the next class.